Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli back with another top 5 video. And that's right. This top 5 video that I'm doing is all about underrated animated films. Now, yeah, there's been obviously there's been a lot of, say, top 10 and I'm pretty sure top 5, uh, lists of underrated animated films. Rather if it's like, say, if it's Watch Mojo or if you've done one of your own. So I thought I'd do one of my own. So yeah. I was thinking like if I wanted to do a top 10 or top 5, but I just decided to just go ahead and do a top 5, which, yeah, as you're watching, this is a top 5. Because there are so many underrated animated films and good underrated animated films. Not everybody talks about these, and it's a shame because there's just something about animated films that are underrated that, because there's something to like about them. And some of them, they've grown cult followings. Like, I could think of, say, Disney. Disney has plenty of underrated animated films. Good examples are The Black Cauldron, Atlantis the Lost Empire, and Treasure Planet. And those 3 Disney animated films, they grew cult followings. So for this top 5 list, well, no Disney animated film is going to be on this list, except for something Pixar, and that's all I'm gonna say. This is what I picked for this top 5 list, and yeah, I think this will be pretty good. So, with that being said, sit back and enjoy my top 5 list of underrated animated films. Ralph Bakshi's Wizards. Okay, some of you guys probably don't know who Ralph Bakshi is, and the movie. Well, okay, how does one describe Ralph Bakshi? Well, let's just say, because, he's well known in the industry of animation. The animated films that he did are just beyond what you would expect. When you take a good look at them, your first reaction's like, what the heck did I just watch? Like, seriously. His films are just like, way over the top, like, maybe, like, not close to, say, the level of, like, Family Guy or American Dad. You get my point. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? But yeah, for Wizards, this was Ralph Bakshi's attempt to make a family animated feature for the entire family, for all ages, and he tried his best. He really did. Maybe it was not the best attempt. Like, there are some, bloody, gory stuff a little bit, and, a bit of, adult jokes, with one character, Eleanor, because, gosh, when you see her, wow, that's just... But, the story to Wizards is not that bad, because, well, basically, the Earth, Earth itself, the population, basically, the population has been destroyed, because of, war and machines, all that stuff. And now, the population of Earth is now all fantasy creatures. And there are 2 wizards, a good wizard and a bad wizard, and they're brothers. One that does good magic and the other that does bad magic. And, the good wizard, he, of course, has 2 friends of his helping him and to take on his evil brother wizard, and this machine named Peace, he was sent out by, I think, is it Black Bolt? I believe so, yeah. That's the name of the bad wizard, and the good wizard's name is, Avatar. And so Black Bolt sends out Peace to, hunt down and kill, and at one point, comes face to face with Avatar, and, Avatar reprograms Peace, and now is a good machine, a good robot. Of course, with Black Bolt and his minions, like, Black Bolt shows his army and his minions footage of, say, Nazi, and, to get them to understand, I guess, about war or something like that. I think that's what's supposed to happen, I'm pretty sure. But, yeah, I gotta say, Wizards is such an interesting animated film, and even, from Ralph Bakshi, this film, it did grow a cult following, and, not to mention, because, this happened to come out around the same time when Star Wars came out. And of course, I'm talking about, the first Star Wars film in 1977. Mark Hamill was involved in Wizards, which, fun fact, Wizards was Mark Hamill's voice acting debut. And George Lucas, Ralph Bakshi, they were good friends, and, even say Wizards was originally going to be titled War Wizards, but of course it just changed to Wizards because, of another war-titled film, Star Wars. You get the point. And later on, because Wizards would have some inspiration for, say, Futurama. Peace would be the modeling inspiration for Bender, you can definitely tell. And a lot of people say that Adventure Time was inspired by this film, and I guess so, because of the atmosphere, the style, and, the sets. Seems like it, yeah. And even though that Wizards is not that well known, and most people wouldn't know about this film, well, what's on my shirt from Wizards, this shot of Peace riding on a horse would be a well-known image from this film. And, not to mention, this horse-like creature would have some inspiration for the Tauntauns in The Empire Strikes Back. So, yeah, it kind of makes sense. You could tell. But overall, Wizards, what an interesting animated film this is. And from Ralph Bakshi himself, his attempt on making an animated feature for kids. And, in the later years of Ralph Bakshi, well, he would do the Lord of the Rings animated film, he would do Cool World, and he would do Mighty Mouse after this film. So, yeah, and I'm sure some of you guys, you would know those pieces of animation too. So, yeah, Wizards makes the top 5 spot. The Iron Giant. Yes, The Iron Giant is making the number 4 spot. And who doesn't love The Iron Giant? It definitely has grown a cult following, and most people, they do talk about this film. The Iron Giant, coming from the genius mind of the one and only Brad Bird. And this was right before he went on to work at Pixar. So before that, he did The Iron Giant. And even before that, well, because he had done a bunch of other, animation material. He worked on Family Dog, and especially he worked on The Simpsons. Not to mention, he actually, for The Simpsons, I feel like mentioning this, that he designed Sideshow Bob. So, yeah. And also, Krusty the Clown is one of Brad Bird's favorite Simpsons characters. Mine, too. So, this was... Okay, so The Iron Giant was Brad Bird's first ever animated feature film that he directed, and of course, he wrote as well. The Iron Giant, it's really a shame, because when this came out, there was less advertisement for this. There wasn't that much marketing and advertisement for this film because, Warner Brothers kind of, pulled the plug on it, kind of. I mean, nobody really knew about this because Warner Brothers, what they did to this film. What the heck? if that didn't happen, then it definitely would have gotten more attention. But as of now, it's gotten more attention. And that's good. And because, the story to it is just so touching and it has heart to it. And when you look at the Iron Giant and E.T., the extraterrestrial, they have some similarities to it. But at the same time, they still have a fresh take to it. And I think the same goes for, say, Lilo and Stitch. It kind of tells the same kind of story, because, one thing is, E.T., the Iron Giant, and Lilo and Stitch, they arrive at Earth, and they befriend a human. So there's a good example. So, and as I said, it seems like all three films, they have a fresh take to them. And it's amazing how, with the Iron Giant itself, I believe, he has a bit of animation and, 2D and CG to him. I believe as though, from what I've heard, he's entirely CG. The only character in this film that's CG. And just so many emotional moments, and, the Iron Giant, say, when moments when the Iron Giant is upset on what he has done, there are times where he becomes this scary, war machine with all these guns and such, and he realizes what he's doing, and he doesn't like this, even when, say, he's really upset thinking that at one point Hogarth has died, and just, that one shot where he's that's just so gut-wrenching. You know what I'm saying? Heart-wrenching. You know what I'm saying? At near the end of the film, the Iron Giant sacrifice because of this one idiot, because when he says, "Launch the missile now!" and the missile is launched, and, of course, the Iron Giant, he has to sacrifice himself to save the humans, and in which so he does. And one big influence for the Iron Giant is Superman. I think, dreaming of becoming Superman, wanting to be a Superman, and in this case, he is, because his sacrifice on saving everybody, and that emotional line that he gives, Superman. And then, he gets killed by the explosion, or does he? Because at the end of the film, he does survive, and all of his robotic parts coming back, that kind of, opens the door, I guess, that, it's not over yet for the Iron Giant. So, yeah. I'm telling you, because it's a shame to what happened with the Iron Giant at first, because it didn't get that much love and respect, but as the years passed, it did. And for Brad Bird, because it was kind of a struggle working on this film, because he was having trouble focusing on this and his family, and he feared that he might lose one of them, he might lose his family or what he's working on. But, thankfully he didn't, and what was going on with him, that would be in, say, The Incredibles. So, yeah, because of Bob fearing that he might lose his family or, being a hero, saving the day, And what would happen with Brad? Well, because after the Iron Giant, he would go to work on Pixar, as I said, and what he would write and direct from The Incredibles, Ratatouille, it's amazing, definitely amazing. The Iron Giant, what a great animated film this is, and definitely because, it makes the number 4 spot. A Bug's Life. Okay, remember when I said that a Pixar film was going to be on this list? Well, this is that. A Bug's Life. What's there not to love about A Bug's Life? And for this being Pixar's second animated feature, and just, because for one thing, it's a big movie. It was the first computer animated feature to be in widescreen. There was a lot to this film, a lot of organic and like giant sets, a lot of locations that these characters went. It was a big movie. And the story, it was really good. And because, Flick being the underdog character, and, because Flick, he, at the beginning of the film, messes up, and, he tries to fix things up, and he wants to make a difference, and he thought he got these warrior bugs to take on the grasshoppers, but what he got instead were a bunch of, circus bugs. But as the film proceeded, because things were starting to look good for Flick and for the circus bugs, especially because what happened at one point with the bird, and when they were building a bird to scare off the grasshoppers. And even when, say, the liar reveal happens, and yeah, of course, eventually, with Flick and the circus bugs and that idea of the bird, it does work and such. And, Flick standing up for the ants, and, the ants finally taking on the grasshoppers near the end of the film. It's such amazing things that are in this film. Not to mention, I'll mention this, the whole, like, controversy of this film and DreamWorks ants. Yeah, who doesn't know about that? But, still, A Bug's Life and ants, yes, there may be some similarities to them, and the whole thing with Jeffrey Katzenberg, taking the idea of doing a CGI bug film. But, both bug animated feature films, they are different. You can tell they have different stories to them. What's going on, etc. And another thing is, A Bug's Life really took Pixar to the next level. Because with that, and Toy Story 2, because, that was when Steve Jobs, he realized that, the Pixar crew, they weren't really working with each other. Like, where they first started off, when they did the first three films, Toy Story, A Bug's Life, and Toy Story 2, they did those films at Point Richmond. Now, that place was spreaded, and the Pixar crew were not together in, say, one building. Separate crew doing their own thing instead of working together, you name it. And with the success of A Bug's Life and Toy Story 2, I should say, that's when, in the early 2000s, Steve moved the company to their new home, as we all know, which is basically considered an animator's paradise. It definitely shows. So, and basically, according to Darla K. Anderson, their official home was built thanks to A Bug's Life. The building was what A Bug's Life built. You get my point. So, it's A Bug's Life to thank for, because it took Pixar to the next level, you name it. Because that's why A Bug's Life makes the number 3 spot, because honestly, I don't know, not everybody talks about this, but come on, it can't be that underrated, because, seriously, this is to me, this is, I'm being honest, I feel like A Bug's Life is a very important Pixar film. As I just said, it took them to the next level, etc. As I said, you can't deny that. Seriously. And you guys can let me know on that too. So yeah, with that being said, A Bug's Life, this is definitely one of their most underrated gems, but again, in my opinion, I don't think it's that very underrated. So yeah, so A Bug's Life, what a great, fantastic Pixar film this is, and making the number 3 spot. Cats Don't Dance. Okay, definitely. Cats Don't Dance went through a lot. How it originally started and to how it finally turned out. Because I'm sure some of you would probably know about this film, right? I'm sure. But yeah, how this film originally started, well, it was going to be both a live action and animated film, just like, say, some of those from Roger Rabbit and Space Jam. Cats Don't Dance was originally this film was originally going to have Michael Jackson, yes, Michael Jackson, starring alongside with cartoon characters wanting to become movie stars. And unfortunately, that didn't come to be because later on, like, Michael Jackson dropped out, and even at one point, the Looney Tunes were considered to team up with Michael Jackson, but of course that didn't happen. As I said, Michael Jackson dropped out, and the idea of doing an animated slash live action film with the Looney Tunes was turned into Space Jam with Michael Jordan, and the story became its own thing, which being Cats Don't Dance. And that was nice, because, yeah, the story could be something fresh and new with new batch of animated characters, and that's what it is. And unfortunately, when this film was finished, unfortunately, Warner Brothers, well, kind of like, say, what they did with the Iron Giant, they pulled the plug on its advertisements. Like, nobody knew about this film. Hardly anybody went to see this. And the only, like, merchandise it had was, say, Subway toys. Just Subway toys? Could you imagine the rest of the merchandise that this film could have had? I could picture it plain as day. It would have had, even if this would have happened, like, I don't know, there would have been some pretty cool action figures of the characters, but there also would have been plush toys of these characters too. There would have been so much to this film that came out of its merchandise and advertisement, but that didn't happen, and just all that it got, like, say, with toy line was from Subway. Jeez. It's a shame because, when this came out again, nobody really knew about this, but at the same time, the film actually was not that bad. And, and obviously, as the years passed, I think, yeah, it got more attention to it. The story, for example, because, well, this cat named Danny, he's going to Hollywood at, I don't know, I guess it's supposed to be Warner Brothers Studios, but, we find out because, like, these animal actors, they're not really doing that great. In fact, there's one character who's mammoth or an elephant, I want to say, I forget, but he's basically like he's the parody version of, like, say, the MGM logo. Like, instead of a lion, it's an elephant. And he basically has to, like, do the same thing over and over again. Instead of just filming it one time and they can reuse it, he does it every single time a new movie comes out. Isn't that not funny and kind of cruel? Like, in a way, like, I think, it is kind of cruel. And the antagonists of this film, Darla Dimple and her butler, Max, definitely, I say, they're very enjoyable in this film. For example, Darla, when you first look at her, you think she's this, cute little angel of a star, maybe like, say, Shirley Temple, but nope, she's the opposite of that. She can pull off some really creepy and scary and evil facial expressions. I'm telling you, even say when you look at the DVD cover of this, wow, just look at her face. And Max, there's just something about Max that's very enjoyable and very funny because he's this giant butler who looks scary with his face, and whenever he talks, he never, like, opens, like, he moves his lips, but his teeth stay closed, yes, Miss Dipple, like, oh, he's very enjoyable, definitely. And, because Darla wanting to ruin the animals' careers, and in which she does, she frames them, puts blame on them for at one point flooding the stage. But of course, Danny, he sets things right, and he exposes Darla, because yeah, she was the one that did it in the first place, and that's it for her. Like, her career is over, and things change, like history changes with the animals becoming the movie stars. And it's kind of funny because right before the movie ends, we see these future movies that they would star in that would not come out years later. Like, I remember, like, there was Beetlejuice, there was Twister, and The Mask. It's pretty funny. But yeah, Cats Don't Dance. It's really sad how this turned out at first when it was released, but it seems like, yeah, as of now, it's gotten a lot of attention, and some people, like, still talk about this. Not everybody, but still. And I'm sure some of you guys, like, you've seen this, and you've talked about it before. But yeah, making the number 2 spot is Cats Don't Dance. And I think, yeah, it definitely deserves the number 2 spot. And taking the number 1 spot is The Thief and the Cobbler. Yes, there's a good reason why I chose for this being number 1. Because, well, there's so much to this film. It went through development hell, it's true, and just from the beginning and the end of when this was being made, and to the director and creator of this film, what he was hoping for this to be the best animated feature of all time. And sadly, just how it turned out, it's depressing, especially for him. Now, the creator and director of The Thief and the Cobbler, well, none other than the late Richard Williams. Now, he's best known in the realm of animation, best known for being the animation director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Everybody remembers him best for that, and, because he started The Thief and the Cobbler in the early 1960s, and for many decades, he was just working on this, trying to find a distributor, and, even during that, he was working on other pieces of animation, like he was doing commercials, he did the Chuck Jones Christmas Carol special, and he did some stuff like, say, with the Pink Panther, you name it, all while he was also trying to work on his passion/dream project, The Thief and the Cobbler, and with animators, working at his animation business, yeah. And, well, in, like, say, the late 80s, Steven Spielberg, noticed Richard Williams and brought him on board for doing the animation for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and he knew right there and then, with the success of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, well, definitely he can really kick off, getting The Thief and the Cobbler out as soon as possible, and even Warner Brothers expressed interest in distributing this film. Not to mention, well, one of the film's main cast members being Vincent Price, yes, well-known legendary horror icon. He was the voice of the main villain, Zigzag. In fact, I remember reading this. He recorded his dialogue somewhere in the 1970s. Well, good thing, because, just in case, like, I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure, like, at that point, that was the only actor that Richard Williams had considered, and which, yeah, Vincent Price being part of the cast of, The Thief and the Cobbler, and I guess Williams, he could figure out who else to be in this movie, I guess. But yeah. But a little bit later, and in the early 90s, well, the film was in big trouble because, well, at one point, we got Disney's Aladdin. And there are many people, and there's no doubt about it, many people don't seem to realize, and they have compared Aladdin and The Thief and the Cobbler. When you look at those two films, yeah, there are some similarities. For one thing, they take place in Arabia, the dune, deserts, you know what I'm talking about. And when you look at the characters, oh yeah, there are some similarities. But, for one thing, I'd say was probably a coincidence. Really, Aladdin came from the genius mind of Howard Ashman, because that was what that was what he wanted to do at Disney. And, well, of course, which that happened, as we all know. Warner Brothers, they panicked because of Aladdin and it being too similar to The Thief and the Cobbler. But for Richard Williams, he didn't care. He just wanted to finish this and get this out. But unfortunately, on May 15th, 1992, what would consider to be the darkest day of Richard Williams' career, the interest for this film was completely lost. Warner Brothers, they lost total interest in this film. And the Completion Bond Company, because their involvement in The Thief and the Cobbler, they had no choice but to take complete control of this film, and their first order of business was to, give Richard Williams the boot. Yeah, because they booted him off this film, and that was a big mistake, because two things. One is that technically this was Richard Williams' dream come true, to finally have his masterpiece be completely finished and to be on the big screen. But two, it would be bad, because that would turn into a complete nightmare for Richard, because he didn't want this to be a musical, say any Disney film. He want this to be completely different. A very different animated feature like you've never seen. You know what I'm saying? But of course that didn't happen, and, well, this turned into a musical, unfortunately. Yeah. But it's really sad how the film turned out. Not to mention, a little bit later, Miramax, they distributed the film this time, and, they had complete ownership of the film. But a little bit later, Richard Williams, he decided to try and restore this film and turn it to how, he envisioned it, with the help of Roy Disney and, of course, with the Disney Company. This was his second chance to, make this film how he wanted it to be, but sadly, that second chance did not last long, because, as we all know, in the early 2000s, Disney hand-drawn animation, and for that matter, 2D animation films at that time were not doing that good. And one of the, two big kills for this second chance trying to restore The Thief and the Cobbler was when Roy Disney stepped down from the Disney Company due to his troubled relationship with Michael Eisner. But as we all know, he did return a little bit later when Michael Eisner stepped down and Bob Iger came in. But, yeah, 2 was when Richard Williams officially called it quits. He was done trying to, save the film and for it to turn out how he wanted it to be. He was done completely. But fast forward, a big fan of Richard Williams stepped in, and he funded the restoration of The Thief and the Cobbler from his own pockets, with the help of those who I believe worked with Richard Williams. And even Richard Williams, He did step in. He did help out. He did help out on this. And as of now, the restorations of The Thief and the Cobbler, I believe, say from Mark 1 to 4, they can be found on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to Richard Williams, his life, work, and career, and The Thief and the Cobbler itself. Yeah, that's all on YouTube. And, you know, if anybody were wanting to watch The Thief and the Cobbler for the first time, which version of the film would they want to watch? Well, I'd say definitely the restorations, especially Mark IV. From what I've heard, and if I'm correct, yeah, Mark IV is the best restoration, the best version of The Thief and the Cobbler. Yeah, who would want to watch the film that came out, you know, in theaters, thanks to Miramax, you know? Nobody. Neither me. So, yeah. So definitely, yeah. Go watch the restoration versions of The Thief and the Cobbler. Definitely, they're the best ones to watch. So, yeah. So, again, as I said, a good reason for The Thief and the Cobbler making the #1 spot. What would have been a true animation masterpiece gem, you know, from the one and only late Richard Williams, and how it turned out, it's really sad. But, you know, in the end, you know what, it's become a lot better, as I said, with its restorations, and many people, like, some of them are noticing this film, and there are those that are talking about this film. So, yeah, making the #1 spot being The Thief and the Cobbler.
Good morning, Arabia.
In conclusion, and with all that being said, I think I picked some pretty good underrated films for this top 5 list, and, you know, I'm sure as though, yeah, you guys know about these underrated films, and, you know, because some of these underrated films, like, you probably wouldn't know that much on them, but definitely, like, say, The Iron Giant and A Bug's Life, yeah, who wouldn't know about those 2 animated films? Yeah. And, yeah, what about you guys? Like, which one's your favorite of this top 5 list? What I've had to say about these films and, you know, the fun facts and the history of these films, leave comments and give this top 5 video a like as always. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my top 5 list of underrated animated films. More top 5/top 10 videos on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next top 5/top 10. Take care, and peace out.